Welcome everybody. If you're joining here on the different pages that we have, kuhsdenver.com, live all the way with two very talented individuals coming in from, it's all the way from Nueva Mexico, and you're, Federico, where are you located?
In Mexico City, so Nueva Mexico, Mexico.
Mexico City, all the way from Mexico City. We've got Arthur Garcia and Federico Vanson de Fernex. How am I spelling it or pronouncing it right?
That's great. It's actually Fernet, since it's French, Swiss French last name, but
that's cool.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same. And what I'm going to do is for the time being, I'm going to just patch into these individuals so they can give you a little background on what they do before we get started with this fabulous, interesting service that they offer here. And I'll let you guys take it over from here. We're going to zoom right into the screen. There you go. Okay, it's all yours, Federico.
Okay, excellent. You know, first off, I want to thank Henry for the opportunity to share our story with your audience. You know, the way that I was actually introduced to Henry was by Mr. Q, Albert Quintana, who was a teacher at Adams City High School. So it's great to be able to connect back with the community. I'm actually from Commerce City. I grew up at 6750 Birch Street, right across from the old Adams City High School. And since then, currently I live in San Francisco, but my family and I have really become digital nomads as of late. So currently, as we're speaking, I am in Mora, Nuevo Mexico. Maybe it's a place that many of you are familiar with. It never ceases to amaze me that no matter where I travel in the world with my wife, that someone says, "Oh, Mora." I know exactly where Mora is. So we've been taking advantage of the current shelter-in-place situation. Moved out here to El Campo, and it's been great. Having chile verde, green chili with my eggs and bacon every morning. I mean, I can't complain currently, but it is definitely great to be here with you. And so we're coming to you live today, and I'm joined by our CEO and co-founder, Dr. Fernex, that share a little bit about him shortly. But we're working on a project that's very important, and it's has to do a lot with identity. And I think a lot of us have always heard maybe the words that how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you're from, or it's important to know your roots in order to know where you're headed. And so I guess a question for the audience is, have any of you ever taken a DNA ancestry test before? So we know there's many big players in the industry. There's 23 y yo, 23andMe, Ancestria.com, there's MyHeritage. And so one of the, from a personal example, is my father actually took one of these DNA tests. And the results were, almost the obvious. It said, all right, your father, Margarito, is 48% European, Spanish, some Portuguese, and then the rest is Native American. So when my siblings and I got those results, we were like, oh, okay, great. Yeah, we kind of already knew that, and was left longing for something more. And so back in April, I had the opportunity, and I was blessed with the opportunity to meet Federico and Christian Rodriguez, who's listening. So shout out to Christian, who's doing the hard work right now, running our pipeline and running the systems. But I was able to meet with them, and they presented me with this idea, this concept that they had, a business that had already been in operation for 2 years, where they would actually take the DNA results that you've already been provided with, but left with a question mark, like, tell me a little bit more. And they're able to actually give me results that tell me what indigenous nation my family is from. So I was able to take my father's raw data file from one of the other providers, run it through our pipeline, and discover, and I mean discover because I'm not sure that anybody in my family, and my family's from Zacatecas, by the way, so shout out to everybody from Loreto, El Tepetate, Zacatecas. Shout out to everybody listening, fam. And then also my mother's side is from Delicias, Chihuahua, so saludos to everybody out there. But they were able to tell me that my father's DNA was 38% Nauma Otami. And so it's kind of like a treasure hunt, right? It's like every step you go, and I know the genealogy and ancestry, like it's very, it's there's a lot of people that are really into it, and that are professional genealogists out there. But getting this clue into my family background was an enlightening moment, and so I'm looking forward to taking the test and getting my mother's side as well. So that's kind of my personal experience that I wanted to share.
Thanks, Arthur. Yeah, I think that's very precise, the way that we actually met, and we've seen people just like you that really get interested into discovering more about their roots, their genetic heritage or ancestry. I mean, because people talks about genetic ancestry, even though it's more the side of the heritage. And yeah, well, I would love to share a little bit how some of what's actually founded and the motivations behind, because I think it's really interesting. First of all, thanks Henry for letting us having this space, and I'm going to just introduce myself and give a little more background on who am I and why am I working on this and what are the motivations, which I think is very important. As some of you have already heard, I have like a very complicated last names and name, so I'm the result of a complex admixture, having family from Spain, from Germany, from Italy, from Switzerland, and from Mexico. And I was actually born in Mexico. But I never understood my true and my real heritage. And that was one of the biggest motivations, because we have no idea where my father's lineage comes from. So that was like one of the first motivations. We have like very clear idea from my mother's side, and there are like history books, and we have a lot of information, but nothing from my father's side. And that was one of the motivations. I used to ask myself a lot, where do we actually come from? Where does my last name Fonson comes from? And we haven't been able to really identify the origins. So that was one of the first motivations, combined with my own personal story. I'm a medical doctor. I used to be a professional athlete too. And I came to a point where I was at med school. I always loved innovation and health tech and trying to get involved in different projects related to technologies and health, because and I say we because Christian and I, we were together, and we went together to med school around 12 years ago, so we know each other very well. And we realized that there was a big problem in the healthcare system in not only Mexico, but in Latin America in general. And we are using technologies, and we are using data and drugs and all of the different things that we use in the healthcare system to treat patients, and even more chronic patients, because we know that Latinos are more prone to develop metabolic diseases. We treat them with products and services that have been developed for Caucasians, for Americans, and not for Latinos. So we also know that the response is not the best one that we would expect as medical doctors. So all of that made us think, what was the big problem? And the problem that we saw is a lack of information, a lack of data. So no one was really generating data from these groups. I mean, we are based in Mexico, so but we realize that it's the same for Central and Southern America. No one is generating data, scientific data, and we are one of the most underrepresented groups in scientific databases, with less than 4% if you combine Africa and Latin America. So that's pretty much nothing. So how can you discover new drugs? How can you discover new treatments for a group that you don't have information about? So this is where we decided to start first with another startup trying to push the direct-to-consumer genomic services in Mexico. We realized that it was too early. And then that's when we pivoted to Somos and to a concept that could actually put together the essence of generating data from the native groups in Mexico but also from the admixed populations, primarily in the US. So in order to grow, we need huge amounts of data. And the only way to do it is to having Latinos participate in different models in different ways. And one of the ways that we saw that could be more successful and that we could achieve a bigger amount of users is Ancestry. So we knew that we were generating data from the indigenous nations in Mexico, and we understood that with this data we could create something really new and that it's not out there in the market. So we've done a lot of research, and we actually know people from those big companies and researchers from those big companies. And we know that the problem is that they don't have access to the information to actually train algorithms for being able to tell you if you have X or Y percentage of Nahuatl or Mayans, right? Because if you don't have the access to the information, how can you train an algorithm? So we realized that we had that possibility because we were gathering this type of data, and that's when we decided to go fully into creating a concept around the Ancestry service that could scale in the future into identifying potential traits related to health, risk scores, cancer, and different areas that are very important for Latinos and that we don't have anywhere right now to identify. So this is like how everything actually happened, and it was just like trying to identify which were the gaps and the pieces of the puzzle missing in the healthcare system, and pushing a lot, because you have to go against the system, you have to go against research groups that have like an old-fashioned way of thinking, and we've been really working hard into developing this concept, and now we need Latinos to participate and to use the services, because that's the only way that we can improve them and that we can actually have access to more information and being able to translate precision medicine into practice for Latinos in the future.
If you just joined us, you're listening to KUHS Radio TV station Denver. We're worldwide broadcasters, and that's Dr. Federico, all the way from Mexico. And if you want to discover your Latino heritage, own your data, share your knowledge, let's change the future together. And we've got our Arthur Garcia also on board as we talk about the DNA test and all the different things that we have going here. Arthur, can you patch in here and give us an insight of how you feel about all this? Because just listening to Dr. Federico, it seems as though this is such a great idea going forward, finding out where everybody is at, what they're doing, and where we're headed with this. So give us an idea of how these DNA tests work, where we can get them, and I mean, they're so cool. I mean, they're only $39, and I think to find out where you're from, you might think, am I really from here? Give us an idea of what you think this will produce, getting everybody to get their kits.
Sure. Thanks. Well, we all know that knowledge is power. And one of, as we've been talking about in general terms, and Federico mentioned, is a service unlocking this knowledge for Latinos. But we know that the vast majority of folks are self-identify, right? So when we say Latinos, we're talking about Latinos, Latinas, Chicanos, Chicanas, Hispanics, we're talking even Latinx, right? So I think there's so many, I think we complicate a little bit, in how we identify, but everybody has a right to their identification. And so what we're looking to do is just answer a piece of that in terms of, your ties to the indigenous nations. And I think today it just proves that something that's so valuable and important is a piece of identity, right? So as folks, I grew up in Commerce City. I knew that my family was from Tepetate, but I didn't know what Sierra, my ancestors came from, right? I knew that my mother was from Delicias, Chihuahua, but even a smaller town, in Molino is where they came from, but ¿cuál Sierra, right? Where did my family come from? And I think in some families, it might be a taboo subject. It's maybe something that's not talked about. And I also think that because our country, if you go back generations and generations, I know right now where I'm sitting was formerly Mexico, right? So until the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, this was Mexico. And in California, where I live, parts of it were Mexico. And also going back, it was Aztlan, right? So the mythical place where the ancestors came from. And so, Federico talks about the continent was populated from north to south. And so along generations of time, there can be traits that are picked up by our tests that might most closely resemble an indigenous nation that's either going to be in North America or maybe even different parts of North America, being in Mexico or Central America. So the first part of our service is we're looking to make it very simple. We know that 26 million individuals have already participated in a DNA ancestry test. 26 million. And so what the team has spent a lot of time on is a reanalysis service where if you already have your raw data file, so if you've already received results from any of the major providers out there, we will take that file, we will run it through our algorithms and provide you with results. And those results are going to closely resemble the data that we have. And just like most data, it gets better and better, and there's improvements as we collect more samples. And I'll let Federico talk about this in a moment, about how we collect those samples, because there's a social impact into what we're doing. So we're not looking to take advantage of any of the indigenous nations. We're actually taking a different approach to that. And I'll let him speak to that. But I think that just unlocking that piece is knowledge. I mean, imagine if there's a young Latino, Chicano individual that's being told that, you're never going to make it, or, there's just negative energies. But what if he discovers he or she discovers that his ancestors, the Mayans, discovered, math and astronomy? Like, what does that value of identity provide to, a younger generation? Or if they were part of the Tarahumara tribes, that there's just so much rich history and culture that's missing from today's knowledge base. And so that's what we're looking to do. So we have the service, and we do have an offer. So we are going to get to that. We do have an offer. So you can go to somosancestria.com right now, and you can order the $39, and that's at a discounted rate. It's usually $60, so it's on promotion right now for $39, and you can order the kit, and then you'll get access to our platform, and you'll be asked to upload your data. But if you're someone that has never ventured into DNA ancestry, maybe you think it's like ¿qué van a hacer con mi saliva? As brujerías or something like that, right? So you're able to order a kit, and it comes in an awesome designed packaging, perfect for the holidays. So if you're looking for something special to get for your loved ones for the holidays, consider getting a kit, maybe one of the T-shirts that's designed by a local artist that does Olinala art, and Federico can talk about a little bit that further. You can order a kit, and we're going to give you the promo code here. So if you go to the website now and you want to use it, and this is for the first 25 listeners that go to the site and order this, and that promo code is Radio, capitals RADIO 2020. We made it very simple. If you're listening to the radio right now, you can go there and you can order a brand new kit, which is typically $149 is the price point for that new kit. And with that discount code, you will be able to get it at $119. So that's our gift to your listeners today, Henry.
And you got concepts, you've got goals and objectives here. And, it's just to listen to you guys and how well you've put this together. It's interesting. And Federico's probably going to give us more on that because, like you said, all the way from down south all the way north, like everybody says, you moved the border over us. And they get over on the other side. Oh, well, okay, well, this is where our families really come from. Is that correct? And you're going to find through your service, you're going to collect so much data, it's going to surprise a lot of people, because without this service showing where the Latinos came from and the indigenous people and everybody else, it would be mighty difficult. Is that correct? There's not that many or none that do this.
Correct. Yeah, I would definitely love to talk more on what Arthur was already trying to explain. I think because I think that's the essence and the vision of Somos. So when we realized that we needed to generate data from the indigenous nations in Mexico, and then after that Central and Southern America. So we know that there are more than 800 indigenous nations throughout the continent. We also understood that Latinos in general, we are very different than Europeans and people from Asia, Africa, right? So we react different also to projects, and there have been different research projects that have been not clear from the beginning, and also have been even not fair on the way that they treat the data from these populations. So we realized that we needed to find a model that could actually go with our vision, that was also scalable, because if you talk about 800 indigenous nations in Latin America, you need to have something that is actually scalable, and that the participants are going to receive properly, to like the concept, to even feel honored in participating and creating this momentum and this whole movement that we are creating here with Somos. So we realized that we needed to have strong and honest relationships with indigenous nations. And for that, we needed to implement technology too. So I don't want to go too deep into the technology that we use, but I am sure that a lot of people have heard of blockchain. Right now, at this moment, blockchain is one of the most secure and easy ways to ensure transparency and traceability. So we decided to implement these type of technologies so that all of the data that we generate from each participant is really owned and governed by these participants. So if they don't want to participate in any type of research project in the future, or if they don't want to share their data anymore, and more important, the data is owned by them, right? Because we've seen these huge deals between similar companies that are working in this field and pharmaceutical companies, where they actually license the data that they have been collecting from users, and they really do big deals and don't share that with any of the participants. So we wanted to avoid that, and at the same time we realized that we were also helping in avoiding what we've called bio-digital colonialism. So we know that our continent has this history of colonization, and we want to avoid this in the future with the new technology, because we don't want anyone or any other company that is not even Latino to really own our data and manage the data as they want. So the only way to avoid that is by giving the ownership of the data to each one of the participants. And this has allowed us not only to create strong and honest bonds with the communities, but also being a lot more inclusive and allowing them to be retributed in the future, because that's the second most important part of the vision of Somos. So if the data that we are helping being generated creates any value in the future, which we are sure that's going to be the situation here, because there has never been a drug developed through the data of Latinos. So whenever the analysis of this data generates any type of value, we are going to share a percentage of that with the communities too. And this is how we found a way to make it scalable, to make it honest, to make it transparent, to make it also fair for anyone that participates. And I think that's something that we are really going to continue doing, because that's the vision, and that's how Somos was actually founded, and that's what has allowed us to start gathering data from these groups in this type of transparent way.
I needed to ask you this, and this is an interesting question for you. I keep hearing you say this about creating drugs. Do you feel like the drugs now that they use on the masses don't quite go well with the Latinos or the indigenous people, as well as it does with the people they're giving it to, whether it be oral drugs or injected drugs? Will you think, or do you think this will have a bearing or a big influence on the type of drugs that they create?
100%. Actually, There are many groups that are pushing on saying that we are all equal and that we all as humans, we share 99.8% of our DNA, which is true. I mean, we do share because we are all humans. But there are huge differences among different populations that we need to identify. And those differences are very important and they have a huge impact on how we metabolize nutrients, how we process food, how we metabolize drugs, so how we react to drugs. And we have seen it with COVID. I just want to put this example that we are actually living right now, and we're seeing that there are some populations that are more affected than others. And there actually have been some research papers already showing that there is a genetic predisposition to the disease. So we know that those differences, and it's hard because whenever you talk about differences, it might seem that you want to separate and segregate groups, and that's not what we want to do. But we want to show that the differences are really important in order to have a better future. Because if you understand those differences, then you can be proactively working in using those differences on your benefit. And that's what we are very sure that we are going to achieve in the future for Latinos, because we have been using treatments and drugs from other groups and that have been developed for other groups. And we also know, and there have been plenty of studies that have shown that, for example, people with some percentage of Mayan heritage, they would not process the same way the drugs that they use for diabetes. So how can you prescribe something, because that's the only thing that we have, so how can you prescribe something if you know that it's not going to work for many of the patients that you are prescribing this drug to? So yes, in the end, our idea is how can we use all of this information that we will be generating so that we can create a better future for Latinos.
You know, Dr. Federico, that was such a pro say, you know, what you said right there about the COVID. And I see this a lot. It says it's affecting the Latino community and the Black community more than it is the other communities. And I think, why? And you just made a big statement on why. And it's got to be known that this is the problem. They create a drug or it's a COVID that's affecting other people, but they're going to create for the pandemic, a vaccine of some sort. Is it going to be good for everybody? Are they applying it to all the different races, all the different indigenous people, the Latinos? How are they creating this to make it fit for everybody? Like you said, we don't digest the same way. That's going to be interesting.
Correct. With COVID, it's a lot more complicated. What we have realized is that this lack of information right now is also not allowing us as Latinos to come to the best solution as fast as with other populations. That's the truth. So we are going to have to stick to what we get, right? So the vaccine that is going to be developed for population from Asia and from Europe, we're going to use that. And even though we have research groups working on identifying potential vaccines here in Mexico, and they are doing clinical trials too, we don't have enough information to really have an accurate service for Latinos, not only for this problem that we are facing, but any health problem that comes in the future. And that's what we want to avoid, at least for the next years. We know that around every 9 to 10 years, we have this type of problems and this type of pandemics and this type of infectious diseases that affect a huge amount of the population. And we want to close that or to reduce that risk for Latinos in the future by generating information.
And it's really good. If you're listening to us right now, you can get your DNA kit by going on to the website. It's Somos Ancestria, is that correct? .com?
That's right.
And put in Radio 2020 for the code. Is that correct? I hope I got that right. It's very simple, right?
Yeah, you can go to the website. You can take a look at some of the work that has been done before. You can see photos of Dr. Rodriguez Christian and Federico going into the indigenous nation communities and with the consortium projects that they've done. And so you can see some of those pictures, but then if you also go to the store is where you will find the kit. And again, you can choose either between a new kit if you've never taken one of these DNA services before. You can purchase the kit, and if you use the code Radio 2020 or Radio 2020 all capitals, and you're one of the first 25 to use that code, then you will get a discount off a new kit. And if you already have taken one of these tests before and you have your results, then you can easily go to the site as well, check out with the raw data reanalysis service. It's $39, and you can go ahead and use that code. Well, the code won't apply to the service, but to the reanalysis service, but it's $39. And if you'd like to pick up a T-shirt, those are designed. Maybe you want to talk about how we're incorporating the arts and the artesanías, Federico, in a marketplace. So it's just a sneak peek of what we're doing, but you can check out the hats that we have and the shirts as well.
Can you translate that into a bilingual format for those audiences that are out there that would like to hear it in a different language, what we always do here as a public service announcement?
Sí, claro. Para todos los que están interesados en participar y obtener nuestro servicio de ADN, pueden ir a la página de web a somosancestria.com, van a la tienda y usan el código Radio 2020 para recibir un descuento si son uno de los primeros 25 para ordenar el nuevo kit. Lo van a encontrar en la tienda bajo el título que dice Pre-Sale New Kit. Y me imagino que les va a encantar el servicio, y también va a ser un buen tipo de regalo para regalo navideño. Entonces pueden ordenar un kit, una playera, y va a ser algo especial para esos tiempos navideños. O si ya tienen sus resultados de otro servicio, también pueden comprar el servicio de reanalysis en la página web.
Y gracias, Arturo Garcia. That was well done. And so that's for anybody who wants to hear it in Spanish. A lot of people do get on here. We do put this up there with a closed caption, so it'll also go in the closed caption for those that are hearing impaired. So we also offer that service up there on our live transmission. And Federico, give us some last thoughts on what we're going to do here. Then we'll say again where we can get the DNA kits. And these DNA kits that's really well priced. I've never heard of a DNA kit being at $39. You guys are dropping it down so you can collect a lot of data. So right now, I'm sure you guys have got a lot of data, and you want a lot more. What is your goal, and how much you want to get into the database, the SQL database that you're putting together? How big do you want it to be? As big as possible so you can get real true data?
Yeah, that's correct. So first of all, I would like to say something that sometimes it's not completely known by the users of genetic tests is that all of the databases, the results that you get depend on the databases that are being used to train the algorithm. So it's very relative. For example, you might get a percentage of Nahuatl heritage, right? Because Nahuatl were primarily based in the middle of Mexico, in the middle of the country, and as soon as we get more data from different groups, also from the central part of the country, we're going to be able to split that Nahuatl heritage, because if you only have information from 2 or 3 groups, but then when you expand to 10 in the same region, you're able to actually refine the precision on how you can actually see the resemblance of someone to these different groups. So as we grow the database, not only in the amount of Latinos that use the service, because we know that there are going to be many Latinos that they already know that they have X percentage, or that they share some heritage with a specific group. So that also helps us if they go to the surveys and they answer that, yes, I have indigenous parents or grandparents from X region, that helps a lot to refine the algorithms. But our goal right now is we need to generate more data through our partnerships with indigenous nations. In Mexico, we have 68 indigenous nations that are legally recognized. We know that there are a couple of other nations that haven't been recognized, like Apaches in the north of Mexico, and some other groups like Aguacateros in the southern. So we know that there are around 70 to maybe 75 groups in Mexico. And our goal is to sequence the genome of those 70 to 75 groups in the short term. That's maybe 1.5 years, not more than 2 years. and we're talking there about around 7,000 samples just from these groups that we're going to be generating. And when it comes to users in our platform, we're looking to have 10,000 people in our platform by the end of 2021. I'm sure that if we can continue sharing this message and what we are doing, and that this is not just a for-profit company trying to do a huge business, this is really a company having social impact and having or finding fair ways to generate information for Latinos and change the future. I know that a lot of Latinos are going to participate and do this type of services. So when we come to 10,000, and that's why we use this this goal that we set for 2021, we can start improving our services and start offering, and maybe at some point we will be able to even start showing relationship between Latinos in our database, which I think is going to be very interesting, because if you can see that you share X percentage of your heritage with another Latino that might be in the US or back in Mexico and you don't even know, and you can try to identify or find new relatives in the future, that would be something really interesting. So that will become a real community, a Latino community that is connecting through their real roots and through their genetic data. So that's something that we can start improving and developing once we have more data. So our goal right now is 10,000 people for year 2021. We are sure that we are going to go beyond that, and we are going to achieve our goal. And we also need to collect data from the almost 70 groups in Mexico. So those are the goals for 2021, and we are sure that we're going to get there.
That's awesomely said. I really like that, because do you feel like some of these data will be sought after by some of the big pharmas or the drug companies to determine what type of DNA everybody has, like we were talking about? Do you think the drug companies will approach you in the future? Is that one of your goals, one of your objectives, to make the right kind of whatever they're making, to help with diabetes, to help with all the different things that go wrong with mainly the Latinos, the indigenous people?
Definitely, but I want to state again that we are never going to sell data. So this is one of the biggest differences between Somos and any other company in this field. We're never going to sell any type of data from Latinos, and we're not going to keep it and store it ourselves either. So this is where we're implementing technologies, allowing each user to say, I want to participate, or I don't want to participate in the research project. Am I going to be remunerated? Yes or no? If I'm not going to be remunerated, I don't want to be part of it. So we're going to allow users to make this type of decisions, which is very important. And we see this as Somos cannot claim the ownership of the information or your genetic information, which is your most precious print, like your blueprint. We cannot claim ownership of something that can be yours, because that's something that belongs to each participant, right? So I just want to make that very clear, because that's something that we are to continue pushing, and we know that this is going to be the new state of the art. I mean, we know that society pushes things to become the new state of the art, because you see that it's better than what has been done before 10 or 20 years or even more years behind. So we know that this is going to be the new state of the art, and the other companies are going to have to do it that way too at some point, because people won't do any type of testing anymore if you don't do it that way. So that's why we feel very confident that this is going to be a huge success.
Dr. Federico, and that's what I wanted to get out of you, and that's why I posed you with that question again, so everybody knows that this is very confidential. When you buy your kit, and Arthur, tell us again where we get that kit at. That's you've got that down.
Sure. So you can visit us at somosancestria.com. You can learn more about our story, learn a lot about some of the work that Dr. Rodriguez and the Fernex have done over the past couple years in going into these indigenous nations, building relationships with them. And you can learn more about us, right? Because there is always that question, like, what are they going to do with my data? You know, is this secure? Van a hacerme brujerías? Like everything that you can think of.
I love that one. That's good.
Because it's true, right? Like imagine, like if I took one of, you know, when you get the kit, you'll see that there's a sample collector. And so it'll give you information on what you need to do to take it. You know, you got to fast for 30 minutes, etc. So if I was to take that to my abuelita, she'd be like, ¿Qué vas a hacer? Me van a hacer brujerías and whatever. Like, maybe it's just me.
Yeah, it's funny.
But you can go to the site, you can get the kit, you can learn more about us, you can ask us questions. You can also send us an email at hola@somosancestria.com to reach out to us. So that's simple, HOLA@somosancestria.com. If you're looking for more information, or maybe you're looking to collaborate with us, maybe you work at a university program and you think that this might be a good fit for next semester to offer to students to help unlock the genetic ancestry. So reach out to us there if you're looking to collaborate with us as well. And as I mentioned, you can you can wait at a big box store for a couple hours to get in, or you can go online and you can buy an awesome holiday gift. You can buy that Christmas gift today by going to somosancestria.com. You can get a brand new kit and use the promo code Radio 2020 to get a discount off a new kit. That's if you've never taken one of these tests before. If you already have, you can go to the site and you can get your data reanalyzed for $39. So get your data reanalyzed, get an awesome t-shirt, put it in a nice little gift box, and you know it'll be one of the most it'll be a great Christmas experience for your family and loved ones.
And don't forget, we're going to have Arturo and Federico back on another session. Is that correct? And is it Arturo? You're going to be in the studio next time around, right?
That's right.
If possible. That's if possible. We'll see.
Yeah, if possible. Yeah. So as I mentioned, currently I am in Mora, Nuevo Mexico, and you know, God willing, I'll be in North Glen with my family next week, and yeah, I would love to come by the studio and share more about what we're building. And as Federico mentioned, you know, we're really looking to change the future through our work. And I know that throughout the course of the show, we've used the term Latino, and not everybody identifies as Latino. We get that. It's just a word that we're using generally, but we know that there's people listening that are like, I'm not Latino, I'm Chicano. Or I'm not Mexican, I'm Nuevo Mexicano, right? So
I'm Manito, or that kind of thing. Yeah, everybody has something different. Yeah.
Yeah, and we respect that. And as Federico mentioned, you know, we're for the next year we're starting with Mexico, but I want to encourage you. So if you're listening and you're Salvadoreño, if you're Nicaragüense, Puerto Rican, and you're like, hey, you know, what about us? You know, you can still participate. You know, as our goal right now and our mission, it has to be focused on Mexico. And by taking the test doesn't mean that you're not going to get any results. But as we continue to expand into other markets, and you know, we do want to keep everybody in mind.
So discover your Latino heritage, own your data, share your knowledge, and let's change the future together. I like that statement. Who developed that one? Yours truly, right?
No. That's Federico.
Federico, that was great, Federico. I like that. So until next week, we'll be back again with the same type of format. We're going to kind of delve deeper again into the same kind of show, except we're going to ask a few different questions because we'll know what to ask because we're going to get feedback. We always get feedback from our audience. And so I'm going to bring out those questions and see if we can throw those up there. And what we're going to do, too, on the next round, if you don't mind, get some of the audience participation and see what they have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, see, and then we'll answer a few questions. I'll put up there. Put your comments in our live feed, and we'll answer some of their questions if you guys are game.
I love to interact with people because we learn a lot. As Arthur said before, we have a way to see things. We are Mexicans. I mean, I was born in Mexico. Arthur's family was born in Mexico. The same with Christian, our co-founder. But we know that people identify themselves differently. We want to be, I wouldn't say inclusive, but we want to be open for anyone that would like to have an opinion on how they feel about these type of projects, because we really want to impact. We have more than 650 million Latinos around the globe, and when I say Latinos, I say people that have some heritage from the Latin American continent. So this is what we want to hear and what we want to have feedback on, because we really try to develop our products and services through design thinking. So we like to listen to people and hear what they feel, how they feel about it, and try to improve once we've got that feedback. So yeah,
we'll allow a few, but not a lot. Okay, we'll just get the best questions, because yeah, it can get out of hand. It really can, and we can't get the message across. So with that being said, Arthur and Federico, it's been a pleasure for you guys to be on this station in our network. And our network is big. We've been around 14 years, and so we do have a big reach out there. So, and like you said, if it goes outside the international to other places like Nicaragua and all the other places, that's okay. But we'll make sure and stress next time where we're trying to collect data, okay? Even though you still want to give them their kits, even though they say, hey, I don't mind, I just want to know where I come from. And so it still works, right? So with that being said, any last statements, Arthur and Federico? Give us one last statement.
Just invite people to participate, to feel a part of this movement. We see Somos as a huge movement that is going to really be a game changer for Latinos in the future. And I'm not the one that invites people to buy. That's Arthur. So I'm going to let him make the last statement.
Sure. So first off, I want to thank my old teacher at Adams City High School, Albert Quintana, who actually connected me with you, Henry, again for this opportunity. So I want to give kudos to him. We also want to say hello to everybody in Commerce City. I have never forgotten, even though I've been in San Francisco for many years, where I'm from. So hello to everybody there in Commerce City, and also mi familia en Zacatecas, Loreto, querido Zacatecas, y también Chihuahua.
Oh, beautiful. Well said. Well, that being said, we're going to conclude this show. Join us next week. We're going to have these two gentlemen back and talk further. And keep in mind that you're going to be able to make comments and statements. We do have some probably coming through there, but we don't answer them until we have your approval, which we do now have their approval. So next week, join us again where you can interact with these two gentlemen and talk further. And until next week, join us again. And from now, we'll say goodbye for now and say goodbye, world. Take care.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Gracias, Arthur.